Hey, welcome to the channel. So for quite a while now I've been waiting to start this video series. A few weeks ago I got this. This is a guitar kit. I know what's in it. I'm just not sure what the condition is, how well put together it is. So one of my long-term projects is to take one of these kits and turn it into an instrument which really is of my own design, which sounds the way I like my instrument to sound. Let me just tell you what I'm expecting to see in here. So this should be a Les Paul type body guitar kit with a mahogany neck and body, black wood fingerboard, but most importantly with a spotted maple neck, which is really hopefully going to be the highlight of this instrument. The hardware which is included in this, I don't expect it to be a very great quality, but this isn't going to be the final hardware. Eventually we'll replace all of that, but that's why I'm making that into a series, so we can sort of like customize that instrument, starting with the finish. I'll talk you through what I'm planning to do as we unbox this. So let's do this. Okay, so let's open it up. So the manufacturer is Coban Guitars. You've probably never heard of them, you certainly have not. But let's see what's inside. So we've got a listing and a wiring diagram for all the hardware, so that's nice. As I said, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this and I'm already in love with the spotted maple. So this is they've included a kind of sample of just the veneer itself. So I don't know if you can see, but the veneer is really thin. So what that means is that I'm going to have to be really careful with the amount of sanding that I do, because it's like 1 mil thick, it's really thin. So let's start with the neck. So it's completely unfinished, which means the back of the neck feels kind of rough. And obviously the head is flat, so I've had an idea about how to cut the headstock, and I will talk about that when I get to make that video. So first impression on the frets. Let me just take out my fret rocker from Coban Guitars, just to get a rough idea about whether the frets are level or not. Yeah, I'm quite happy with
the fret setting. There's a wee bit of rocking here on the 10th fret.
We'll have to see whether this is gonna create some problems along the line. I haven't got enough luthier tools to deal with.
Yeah, there's a wee bit of rocking as well on the 12th fret. So it's very subtle, but
I think some of the frets will probably need leveling, which means I'm going to have to get either a fret leveling beam or maybe just...
Yeah, there's a wee bit of rocking here as well on the 16th fret.
Well, that's okay. I'm not expecting this instrument to be playable right off the... Yeah, I mean, this section of the neck here doesn't really matter that much, because I'm not likely to play this section that much in the first place.
Yeah, a wee bit of rocking here on the 17th fret.
Again, I will put it together as is, and then we'll see. Let's have a look at this body. So first impression is I am loving the sporting. I am really happy with how the sporting looks. It's quite smooth to the touch, which is good because I don't particularly want to do too much sanding on the top. Now the binding looks good. Sometimes on these kits you can see some like that could be like a really rough jobs, and you can see some sort of like inconsistencies in the glue up. On the side and on the top I am not seeing any blemishes or holes or inconsistencies. Maybe a tiny little bit up here which could probably be fixed with a card scraper, which I still need to get, but all in due time. The finish of the inside bit there I'm not worried about. It's clearly been done on a CNC, which is fine, that's what I would expect anyway. The back, so the section here is quite thin, but I'm not actually sure what to expect, so that's probably okay as well. Again, the back here probably could do with some resanding, some 320 to 600 sanding. I can sort this out, that's really not a problem. But overall it looks good. Now the other thing is, which is probably one of the most important things in these kits, is whether or not the neck fits in the pocket. So let's do a test fit just now. What we're looking for, as far as I know, is a really snug fit. So I don't want any, it needs to fit right away, but it can't be like loose in the pocket, because otherwise it will need shimming, which might be an issue. Okay, so it is fitting just fine, but it's not snug. There is a little bit of play, which might end up being a problem. So at this stage I can't really tell if it will need shimming that way or that way. I suspect because it's a bolt-on neck it probably will be okay. Again, I will have to take my chances because all the holes are pre-drilled. It's just what I would have expected to see is to kind of fit the neck and just being able to, well actually you can lift it, so that's not too bad. Yeah, it is snug just as is. It is a pretty cool instrument. So what I was saying about finishing, yes, so because that's one of the things that I'm really quite excited about. So what I want to do is I have, again, Coban Guitars stunning stains. I've got them like a year ago or something. So what I want to do is a green burst. But I keep changing my mind. There is an Ibanez guitar that came out earlier this year, which has a really nice gradient from aqua to green. It doesn't have, it's not a burst, but I really like the gradient. So what I was thinking is potentially, because these stains, the more layers you put, the darker it'll get. So you can achieve a certain amount of gradient if you kind of stage your layers. So I might do that and then use the black as a burst. It is also tempting to just give it some finish and leave it as is. I just really want a green guitar. I've been wanting a green guitar for years and years and years. And I'm thinking, as long as I don't keep it too dark, because otherwise it might be a little too much. I don't want the stain to hide the spalting. I wanted to announce it. So it's going to be an interesting project, but this is going to be in another video. In the meantime, I'm just going to put all of this back into the respective places. So the machine heads are, well, fairly straightforward machine heads. I wouldn't expect those to be of any great quality. At this point, I'm most trying to decide whether I like the look of the chrome or whether I'm gonna want to have something else, like maybe a black, or it's not, well, I'm not a big fan of gold, so I wouldn't really go for any gold hardware. It's worth noting, by the way, that the headstock doesn't have any pre-drilled holes for kind of string bridging. I'd like to try and avoid the pitfalls of Gibson guitars that kind of just to make sure that the strings get out of the nut straight, not at some sort of weird angle. Also, I'm looking at the nut here. It's really high. I think this is gonna need to get fixed as well, because either that or it will need, yeah, I might have to replace the nut altogether. We'll see. This is gonna be an interesting project in itself, but the nut doesn't look right. It looks a bit too high. The bridge is a bridge. I'm sure these will be fine, unless I find some sort of high quality kit of something that is definitely recommended as something to use. I don't really know at this stage, so if you got some advice, just let me know. Pickups. Now, I have absolutely no intention of using these long term. They're just plain humbuckers. At this stage, I am strongly leaning towards getting Seymour Duncan. Either classic 58s or pearly gates to kind of have this dirty blues sound, which is kind of what I'm looking for in this guitar. I mean, you never know, it might be that this is the sort of sound that this will give me, but I don't really expect it to. Having played cheap guitars before, you really notice the difference once you start changing the pickups to something of a much higher quality. There's a bag of various bits of electronics, which I'm not gonna take out. Actually, one thing maybe. The potentiometers, these guys. I have to decide whether I like, because they've got this, so they're black, but they've got this sort of, come on, there we go. They've got this sort of epoxy top on it, which kind of gives it like a really cool encased in glass look, and I'm not sure, I think I like that. Do you know, I mean, it doesn't have rough edges, but just feeling it in my hand, it doesn't feel like it's going to be a problem necessarily. And all of the electronic stuff, like all the pots and bits like this, unless there's defects with it, I'm not really seeing any reason to swap it for anything else. At one point I was thinking of potentially just kind of getting an entire kit of sort of like solderless electronics, the way EMG does. I had my eyes on an EMG kit, like Kirk Hammett Signature or something like this. because they seem pretty simple to install, but I don't know, soldering stuff, especially on a guitar like this. It doesn't have the pickups attached to the scratch plate, which, believe me, is a pain to work with because you have a million screws to undo, and yeah. With something like this, you could probably swap the pickups without even taking the strings off. Speaking of strings, I have no idea what type of strings those are. They don't have color coding, so it's definitely not the Adagio. These are the various plates for the back. Oh, there's also the plate for the neck. So plain chrome, nothing too fancy about it. See, something like this would be ideal for putting my logo on it. If I had like a CNC that I could engrave this piece of steel, stainless steel. That's definitely stainless steel. So I would definitely go for that. But it's one of these mods which you can do later on, because all it requires is for you to take it off and replace it with another. So you know, it's not taking your entire guitar apart. So this is probably gonna have little mods until I'm completely satisfied with it. That's just the strap, buttons, screws and stuff like that. Nothing exciting. And that's for setting up the bridge. So again, super exciting with those. Guitar cable, because obviously I don't have a guitar cable. Yes, I do. And that's the plates for the back. For a quick look. These are going to be plastic plates. You can get some custom plates for standard Les Paul fittings on eBay. It's whether or not it's worth just kind of getting another to replace like cheap plastic. Jeez. Yeah, this is like so this is made of ABS, because I'd recognize ABS anywhere, and it's not great, but it makes for a great template if you want to make your own. Now, I don't really have the equipment for making my own back plates. That's the round one. They're all like just plain shiny black, and that's the scratch plate, which I'm probably not even going to use because I don't really like the look of scratch plates on Gibson Les Pauls, so I'll very likely leave it out. When you fit it, you get like a shiny side and you've got like a rough side, so the shiny side goes inside. And if I put the other one in there, that's what it looks like. For finish itself, I'm probably gonna get like a wipe-on thing. There's a couple of solutions for guitar finishes. I haven't decided yet which one I want. What I do know is that although I want to have like reasonably vivid colors, I don't want a gloss finish because I don't really need. I prefer a nice matte finish that really outlines the colors and the spotting. I mean, just check out that spotting. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I really like sporting, but actually, you know what I could do? I've got some spalted maple that I got last summer. If I could figure out a way, I don't have a bandsaw, but if I could figure out a way to make back plates from spalted maple, that would be a really good use for those. So here's an idea. So that was the unboxing of the Les Paul guitar kit. I'm gonna have to give it a name now, don't I? Give me some suggestions if you want, if you've got some. So that was it. Thank you for joining me in the unboxing of this guitar kit. I hope you enjoyed this video and kind of gave you maybe an inspiration to do the same thing. Like I said, this is going to be the first video of a series that I want to make on building this guitar. I have no idea how many episodes there will be, but please follow along. The next episode I expect is going to be... Okay, there's two things I could do. I could either start working on the neck and shaping the headstock, because I have a pretty distinct idea about what I want to do about that headstock there, and it should be pretty awesome. But the other thing I could do is go straight into doing the finish on this, and that should be pretty straightforward, even if it's going to take a few days. So join me in the next episode of this series, and until then, keep watching. Bye.